Hello, and welcome to Sea of Thieves, an open-world online pirating game where you can sail around an expansive map fighting and plundering alongside other local players. It is also my wife's favorite game, so that's why I'm here. There's a lot to do in this game, from digging up treasure to battling pirate skeletons and fighting actual megalodons, but the one thing that is the envy of most pirates on the Sea of Thieves is gaining the esteemed title of Pirate Legend. But how do you do that? You may ask. To become a pirate legend, you have to gain rank 50 with 3 of the trading companies within the game. Yes, you heard me right. The only way to gain the esteemed title of pirate legend and be permitted into the Athena's Fortune Trading Company is to grind, mindlessly, for a couple hundred hours. But this has been the goal for me and my wife, so here we are. Now, we're not good in the game, but you know what? We're actually pretty bad. But the game is exciting and the seas are filled with randomness and adventure, so please join us today on one of our expeditions. We started our game like any other, at one of the 7 outposts in the game. These are spawn points where players join the server and stock up on the 3 essentials: food, wood, and cannonballs. It is also a place to cash in any treasure you've collected and to collect quests for questing purposes. The fastest way to increase your reputation levels with one of the trading companies is to do quests for them. Duh. As you can see here, the trading company I have the lowest reputation with is the Merchants Guild. But, since the merchants are the Sea of Thieves equivalent of working for FedEx, we decided to go out and do missions for the Order of Souls instead. Now, the Order of Souls is a complex and interesting trading company. Their vast and deep quests include killing skeletons, killing ghosts, killing skeletons, and even killing skeletons. There's really not much substance there, and they gave us 5 groups of skeletons on 5 different islands to hunt down. Hooray! So, we set off in search of skeletons to kill, but not before the 2 most important members of our crew joined. Sarah's cat, whose name is Mike Hat, who often acts as our first mate, and my loyal bird friend and emergency food, Thick and Nugget. At last, we set off for Kraken's Fall to hunt down some skelly baddies. Sailing can be a little boring, so we like to fill the time by playing our instruments and keeping an eye out for other players' ships as well as world events. Thankfully, the trip to Kraken's Fall passed relatively quickly and without incident. Thick and Nugget even got a chance to practice his disappearing act. Now, hunting down skeletons is relatively unexciting. We spent a great deal of time scouring the large island looking for the bony fiends, and Sarah actually found a message in a bottle which gave us another quest to do on the island. I was more interested in the little poems, so I started following those and ended up finding the skeletons instead. Bing, bang, boom, and a little bit later, the skeleton captain, Jessica Bonebreaker, finally appeared. A few uneventful firebombs later, and we were done. Our total haul from that quest? Exactly 2 bounty skulls, which amounts to a little over 2,000 gold. We actually found more valuable loot buried on the island after dealing with the skeletons. Pretty typical for an Order of Souls mission. We had spotted a ghost fortress in the distance, and we decided it was a nifty spot to stock up on supplies for the rest of the skeletons. However, when we got there, we noticed something. Surely enough, Sea of Thieves was being Sea of Thieves, and a player galleon in the distance was flying? Now, thankfully, they were far enough away that they weren't bothering us, so we cleared the fort as quickly as we could. These forts are quick, and they can be done if you're playing solo. They also have quite a bit of loot, as well as a virtual boatload of supplies. It's a quick and easy way to start off any adventure. Now, as we were harpooning the loot we'd collected from our twice-deceased Spaniard friends, we noticed that an Ashen Winds event had started at Kraken's Fall, where we had just left. Neither of us wanted to pass up an easy chance at some gold, so we decided to abandon the Order of Souls quests for now and beat up one of Flameheart's underlings. The best way me and Sarah have figured out how to defeat these Ashen Winds bosses is to have one person at the beach distracting the boss while the other person chills on the ship and just absolutely blasts it with cannonballs. Since Sarah is an expert at regular combat, and I'm a better shot with the cannons, neither of us ever really argue over who gets which role. These battles are more challenging than your average PvE encounters, especially since the main boss has about 80 times the amount of health the players do. This means the battle tends to drag out a bit, so I'll speed things up. About 60 cannonballs and most of my patience later, and Red Ruth finally went down. And look at all that glorious glittering loot. We quickly harpooned it all, but there was a catch. We'd brought something called the Chest of Rage on board, which is basically a firebomb that goes off periodically, but it's worth a lot of gold. Since we didn't want to tote around that thing while we offed skeletons for the Order of Souls, we decided we should probably head to a port. On our way to the Ancient Spire outpost, we were briefly inconvenienced by a megalodon that actually kind of looked like shiny Kyogre. But we weren't overly concerned until we saw a player galleon docked at the outpost that we really needed to sell at. Galleons carry player crews of up to 4, and we weren't looking to catch that kind of smoke. So I did my typical display of non-hostility by shooting off a friendly firework and raising our white flag. After waiting our turn for a few minutes, the galleon left without incident, and we were free to sell all the loot that we had gathered. After a few peaceful minutes of selling loot, we were looking at a neat total of roughly 60,000 gold on the day. Not bad, considering we'd set out to do a dreary and non-lucrative Order of the Souls quest. I had also reached level 49 with the Gold Hoarders, which meant we were that much closer to reaching our goal of Pirate Legend. After we'd finished, we promptly set off for Crooked Mass to finish our skeleton smashing for the Order of Souls, but we had no idea what lay in store for us. After some uneventful skeleton blasting on Crooked Masts, we noticed that an Athena's emissary had joined our server. Typically, when someone raises an emissary flag that marks them on the map, like the Reapers or the Athenas, it's always best to keep your distance. Athena's emissaries are usually seasoned players and they are always super defensive, so it's best not to approach them at all. However, we had a relatively empty ship and the Athenas were hanging around our next island, so we both figured we had very little to lose by getting close and checking things out. As we approached, we spotted the galleon in the distance, and we figured they were probably sailing away. However, as we got closer to Shipwreck Bay, we realized to our dismay, the galleon had turned around and was charging right at us. However, something seemed off. As they approached, we noticed their crew was all shouting at each other using the in-game text commands, and they didn't fire any cannonballs at us as we approached. Their captain even tried to warn us that we weren't paying attention to where we were going, as I was shouting texts back at them. We were both puzzled by the bizarre group of players, and we decided to get a closer look. I found one of their crewmates struggling with a rowboat, and I decided to introduce myself. Needless to say, this guy wasn't up for conversation. However, I didn't realize that I had stumbled upon one of the greatest Sea of Thieves legends ever known, Demon 209X4. Once I was back on my ship, I realized Sarah had picked up a passenger, the captain of the Athena galleon. We had a good time playing our instruments and admiring the captain's epic pirate drip. We also decided it would be best to return him to his crew, but we didn't understand why he didn't want to go back. This would soon become obvious. As we sailed up on the galleon, we all stood waving, expecting the captain we had inadvertently kidnapped to explain that we were friendly pirates. That didn't quite happen. We quickly discovered the captain had assembled an open crew of random players he didn't know. In fact, he wasn't even sure if our friend Demon 209X4 even spoke English. After we had repaired our ship and got vomited on, we decided, since Sarah and I were both feeling hungry, now would be a good time to hand over our supplies and loot and log off. Not before we played songs, showed off our pets, and got killed by Demon 209X4 a couple more times. It was a pleasant conclusion to an unusual encounter, and we both shared a good laugh about it. Thanks for joining us on our expedition today, and have a great day.